So I can honestly say that those words have never been more true, especially this year, both figuratively and literally. It seems like when it rains, which it's been doing quite a lot this summer, it literally pours to the point that it takes 2 or 3 days just for things to dry up just a little bit again. And then when it comes to the projects that we've been working on, it seems like no matter how proactive we try to be or how smart we try to be about the project that we're working on, something always comes around to bite us. And it's not necessarily that we did anything wrong, but we overlook maybe some details that end up causing us some more work than what was really necessary in the long run. And honestly, that's the beauty part of homesteading. And there's some things that we can learn from this, and I'll share that with you in just a little bit, but I want to take you through some of the projects that we've been working on lately and the things that have been working for us and the things that haven't been working for us. Unfortunately, one of the projects that I really need to get around to is this guy right here. That's my private well. And unfortunately, because of all the rain we've been having this year, there's been a lot of surface water getting down into the groundwater that has made my well test positive for total coliform. So we need to get that fixed, which means I need to shock my well. Thankfully, I don't have any E. coli in my well. That was the biggest concern that we were worried about because somebody did test positive within a half mile of my well for E. coli. So I have to say that one of the coolest accomplishments we achieved this year was our rain collection system. As you can see, we have this awesome decking here with 3 IBC totes on top, each holding 250 gallons of water. We have one downspout that fills this tank. This PVC pipe here carries the water over to the other 2 tanks and fills the entire system up. That part of the system worked really well. However, we added something to the system that didn't work so well. When this tank over here would fill up, we had water that was splashing from about 7 to 8 feet up above the ground down through the decking onto the gravel below, and it was causing some displacement of the gravel. So we added this overflow pipe here that goes up and over across that tank and then down along the side of the platform and out to the ground, just to get the water more gently to the ground and prevent major washing. However, what we didn't realize at the time is that we also created a siphon. Because of the way we had this system designed, we ended up with a airlock up here at the top of the overflow system. It actually started to siphon the water out of our 3 tanks, and we lost about 375 gallons of water. The only reason that I figured out something was wrong here was because my mom was complaining that she was trying to water the raised beds in her garden and she hardly had any pressure. So I started pounding on the sides of the tanks, and I'm like, these tanks are only about half full. And she's like, what? There's no way that they can only be half full. She's like, I didn't use that much water. And I said, I'm not accusing you that you use that much water. I said, I think there's something else going on here. I think this overflow system is draining our tanks out. So to try and prevent that, I did drill a hole up in the top of this crossover pipe right here just to get the airlock out, so that way this could breathe and not create that siphon action up that tube and out and drain our water system again. Then we did this project where we have these amazing raised beds that we got on Amazon, and they're huge. So we decided that based on what we were going to actually grow in these raised beds, we needed to find a way to fill these things cheaply because, well, they're 2 feet deep and we didn't want to have to throw that much topsoil and compost inside of these things. So to remedy that situation, we ended up creating a hugelkultur bed, or a lasagna bed. I've seen them called that as well. And we threw a bunch of split logs down in the bottom of here, and then a lot of other brushy material, some grass, whatever things that we could find to help fill this bed up about halfway, and then fill the rest of the way up with topsoil and compost. However, one of the things that we didn't think about at the time was putting in tomato cages, or trellises even for that matter. Now, I wasn't around to record this, but my dad was cussing up a storm, I guess. He had a really hard time putting these tomato cages in, and he even broke one attempting to put one in the ground. And you can see that they're not really anchored in that great because we can't get them down much deeper than 8 inches before they start hitting all of the big bulkier material underneath. So even though we thought we were being smart about filling these raised beds cheaply, we ran into this issue. So it's just something to be aware of. You live and you learn. So one of the latest projects that we've been working on are these sunk beds. What we did here is we took an IBC tote, we cut it in half, and then we took the excavator, we dug 2 holes side by side and dug them deep enough to allow the totes to sit about 3 to 4 inches out of the ground. Now, the whole reason that we semi-buried these totes is because we were trying to create a cheap containment system for the tote itself. We didn't want to build any framework for them, so we thought by putting them partially into the ground around the outside would give some structure or rigidity to the tote when we put the dirt on the inside of the totes. Now, the reason that we're using those sunk beds is because that's where we plan to put our strawberries. This is all kind of an experimental project that we're working on. So this is our current strawberry bed right now, and these things are just planted directly into the ground. But last year, these things got really aggressive and they started shooting runners out like crazy toward the alfalfa field, and we actually had to cut them back. So our plan for that little tote containment system is to hopefully plant our strawberry plants into those, and then with the edges being up above the ground, it'll keep the strawberry plants contained inside. I tried making soil blocks for my very first time this year, and I have to say that things didn't go so great the very first time that I tried it. My mom and I both planted Roma tomatoes. She used solo cups, I used soil blocks. Her solo cups did a lot better than my soil blocks. These are actually some of the plants that we transplanted from my soil blocks into solo cups just to get them going, because my plants were only about this size right here. However, these plants have only been in their soil blocks for about 2 weeks now, so I'm hoping that with a little luck, these things will start shooting off here pretty quick. I had to find a different soil block recipe. I used one that I found on the internet, and I think that the soil blocks were just way too dense, and it ended up causing a lot of problems for the little plants to try and thrive and get their roots shot out through the soil block and really take hold. So I found another recipe idea on the internet, and I was making a video about that, but I don't know how well that is going to go right now because, well, I haven't really seen the kind of growth that I'm still looking for out of these plants yet. So one of the really cool things about homesteading is that it has this amazing ability to keep me grounded, and it reminds me of life lessons that I've already learned a long time ago, but sometimes I forget, or maybe I just choose to ignore. I'm not really sure which one it is. But some of the things that I've been reminded of over the past few weeks here doing these projects is that, one, I need to be patient, and that goes for my parents as well. Sometimes we don't always get to do the things that we want to do, and that's just the way that it is. Nature has other plans for us some days. If the ground's too wet to work, don't try to work it. You're just going to cause more problems for yourself later. And we can't always expect everything to just work out perfectly for us. You know, like my soil blocks, now that's the second time I've tried. It's getting a little bit irritating, I'll admit it, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to scrap that project and start again. I'll probably maybe try something a little bit later here yet this year. But I think I have a pretty good soil block base. I just need to start looking at possibly adding amendments so that way the plant has enough nutrients to continue to just grow and not be stunted after it germinates. And then the last lesson that I've learned over the course of these few weeks is we need to experiment too. Sometimes we can look at what other people have been doing, we can read about what other people are doing, watch it on YouTube, but what has worked for them may not always work for us. And sometimes you may not even find a solution by watching videos on YouTube or reading books. You might just have to get out there and try it for yourself. Kind of like what we did with the strawberry beds that we put in the ground. I have no idea if it's going to work or not, but it seems like a pretty good idea, and we're just going to have to see what the results are come this fall. So that's just how it works. Check out this next video right here where you can watch as I help try to complete our rain catchment system before some big storms hit. I can tell you at least that the rain that did fall was at least a good rain in this particular case.